Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another podcast from Lady Parts. How y'all doing?
Oh, greetings and salutations.
So, I don't even know how to... My mind is exploding for two big reasons. One is fall has started, and I feel so anxious. We have so much to watch.
Oh,
it
my
seems
God.
like we have more
Talk
than
about
we
an
ever
embarrassment of riches. It's like gluttony.
It seems like we have more than we ever have, and it's not even all started yet.
No.
So we have, what we're going to do today is we're going to do a quick rundown of all the shows, the season and the series premieres that we've watched this week, to just quickly do like first impressions. So that's what we're going to do today, and we're probably going to do some of that next week because many of the shows will start next week. But first, we have a season finale that we want to review for you. But before even all that, the other reason my mind is exploding, Mimi.
Let me just say that there is nothing we've seen on television, including an earthquake, that can even approach the drama of the Kavanaugh hearings, which are about to make my head explode. But I won't get into it. It's
because
just
we're here to also distract
Yeah, we need
you.
a little bit of distraction, but I think everybody should be watching a little bit of this because this is what our government has become, and it's pretty frightening.
So we're gonna, for 20
and
minutes...
brava Amy Klobuchar today.
Yes. We're going to give you 20 minutes of hopefully a little bit of a cheer-upper, talking about fiction, because even when we talk about tragedy in fiction, at least it's tragedy in fiction and not in a real life, which seems to be happening on our screens on MSNBC all day. So let's start with the stats. We tallied 23 shows. Of which written or co-written 7 by women, 30%, and directed 6, which is 26%. I thought he was better. I thought it would have
better,
right?
It felt better while we were watching it.
I know, but as it turns out, not so much.
Not so much. Also, before we get into the things that are on our page, Liron doesn't watch The Voice. I do. Fabulous, fun. I loved the first 2 episodes. That little girl, that 13-year-old girl singing "I Am Changing" with Jennifer Hudson is already the highlight of my year.
Okay, I hope you get a better highlight than that.
That's a pretty damn good highlight, let me tell you.
All right, so before we get to the season premieres, though, we do want to talk to you a little bit about a season finale, and that is Elementary.
Yeah.
And for a while, I stopped watching Elementary because it was just too much of the same. But this year was really, really strong. Mm-hmm. And then we got to the finale, and it seemed like it was a real...
the end.
Yeah, which was, by the way, a fantastic way to end it.
Terrific. Very, very clever, very smart. And yet, it also turns out to be a wonderful way to jumpstart the next season, which is that they have now moved to London, where Sherlock Holmes belongs.
Really.
Yes, exactly.
So it's really great. And then they did get renewed, so we are getting a different change of
Very
scene.
happy, very excited. I think it's going to give the show a big shot in the arm, although I love it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Lucy Liu fan, and I think Johnny Lee Miller is just brilliant, and I think it's time for him to get an Emmy nomination.
His performance is truly nothing short of genius.
Just so original.
And I just have to say, there's some movie or something about Sherlock Holmes, and we saw a trailer and I was like, oh, geez, Watson, a guy. I've gotten used.
Exactly.
I've gotten so used, and it's perfect. It works so perfectly. So.
I always laugh because I say when he introduces himself, Sherlock Holmes, and no one goes, Sherlock Holmes? You mean like the detective in the books? Nobody seems to have heard of
because that's supposed
Sir
to be
Conan Doyle's
it's a slightly alternate universe. All right, so here's a rundown of the shows we watched this week, starting with Maniac, which we thought originally was going to be very promising, but...
Yes, we were quite excited because I adore Emma Stone.
And because the premise sounded very
Field.
cool.
Yes, but it really is weird.
Oh, it's so weird, man. We couldn't get it past the first episode. We want to try
We're going
it.
to.
Yes, we want to try the second episode, but honestly, the first episode was kind of like Chinese torture. Netflix. So I really, really didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But
it's too bizarre. It's too arch and bizarre. I would have liked a little bit more realism.
Yeah,
but that's not what it is. So what are you going to do?
But it's just
like theater.
It's
the
just
absurd.
too odd. Yeah. So that's Maniac. I Feel Bad had a kind of a preview of the first 2 episodes. It hasn't actually started yet. It's a show starring Soraya Blue. She's married to Paul Adelstein.
Who's the most charming in this I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
Yes, he's adorable.
They have 3 kids, and her parents are very involved in their lives. And it's by the way produced by Amy Poehler, and it's supposed to be very kind of a feminist show about women trying to juggle marriage and family and work and stuff.
She works in a video game
with
company where she's like the old woman of the group.
Yeah, and to me, there are funny lines.
There are some things that are very funny,
and I love the ideas. But my main problem is that it's too much in you. They spell it out to you. It's not. There's no subtlety about it. All the ideas are spelled out in big red letters.
Yes, and her Indian parents are made to be quite obnoxious.
Yes, quite obnoxious. I don't know why it's necessary.
They're not the stereotypes that they usually are, but they are to a degree. The pushiness,
and they're just not nice.
No, I don't like them.
So I don't know how much we'll be able to stick with it, even though I really like the premise and I really like them, right? And I like the ideas. I just comedies are a hard sell for us anyway. So
exactly, if you don't grab us, you lose us.
Yeah, and we need them to be a little more sophisticated than this usually. But this is I Feel Bad. Now 911, which was one of my favorites last season.
We couldn't wait for it to come back.
The first season was kind of lame, and the fact that
the first episode.
The first episode. And the fact that Connie Britton is not there anymore didn't help me. But the second episode was really, really good. It should have been
like a movie.
First.
It was like a disaster movie. It was a huge earthquake. It was very exciting, very well done. We got a little a Harvey Weinstein character getting the kind of comeuppance they should all get.
That was brilliant because they found a really good way to give you satisfaction on that Harvey Weinstein story. It was really, really exciting. And even though Jennifer Love Hewitt is not my favorite actress, and she's certainly no replacement for Connie Britton, she has an interesting story that hopefully will add another dimension to the show.
I find her very unexciting in every way.
But the second episode really, because the first episode had too many crazy things in it, and I thought, oh my God, they're really jumping the shark. They're throwing everything at us. But the second episode was really, really good.
And I just have to say, I adore Angela Bassett, but when did she become a caricature?
Yeah, she's overacting like mad.
Every scene she's in.
Yeah, no. And I'm not buying her relationship with Peter Krause. I just not buying it. They don't have any chemistry.
No chemistry whatsoever.
But I like the new hunk in the fire station.
He is so good. Well, Liron, he must really be a hunk if you like him.
I like him. Not that way.
No, he's a sweet character too, and he's quite gorgeous.
Yes, and he's a single father of a child with disabilities.
With special needs.
Yeah. So very nice. 911, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Now, Mimi, I think you should say something about the next
All right.
show.
So until we saw New Amsterdam, I said, this is it. Manifest is my favorite new show of the season. It was everything that I had hoped it would be. Very exciting premise, lots of interesting twists and turns that show that there's way more to it. It was, of course, aliens.
Well, we're assuming. We don't know.
I'm sure it was aliens.
Okay.
Trying to do something to right the wrongs they did by making the evolutionary the evolutionary leap between ape and man.
This is completely
they did the DNA strand, the missing link, and now they're sorry about it, so they're trying to make it better. But anyway, it's a wonderful show, and I can't wait to see the next episode and where it's going to lead. I hope that they manage to keep it as good as the first episode was, and not
stretch it out
too long.
Go in all sorts of weird
places. It might
places.
just have to be a season.
I really hope that they know to do it, to make it into a miniseries, because these things that have these mysteries around them really need a beginning and an end in order to be successful, I think.
Unless it presents some sort of a new world order, but we'll see.
That's Manifest. Now, The Resident. Yes, thumbs up. The Resident, which I was never a big fan of. It was enough. It was enough to draw me, but it wasn't. It got better towards the end of the season, but it had a very, very lackluster beginning. Yeah. And I think the problem is, this season. I think the problem is also that it doesn't have enough heart. It doesn't have enough people that I'm rooting for. It doesn't have enough. Most of the doctors are not that nice, and there's a lot of antagonism. There's a lot of. There really is not enough for me to enjoy watching.
I still love Emily Van Camp.
She's nice.
And Surrey and everything.
Yeah, Matt Surrey.
Yeah.
He's definitely a very appealing character, but he's surrounded by other characters that are hard
He
to...
needs to stop smiling so much.
The Good Doctor.
Whoa.
First of all, okay, two things, if I may say. First of all, Lisa Edelstein has joined. Now, I know that she's currently billed as guest star. I don't know why. It really upset me.
Listen, there are people who've been guest stars on the show for 10 years now.
Heather Locklear. on
Even now, I can't remember
Melrose
who
Place,
it is, but I know
wondering.
that every time I see their name as guest star, I laugh.
Anyway, I love her character. She's so edgy and cool, and I just love Lisa Edelstein. And whatever show she's added to, I am happy. Secondly, this first episode of the season, the season premiere, was written by
Freddie Highmore.
Highly intelligent, highly wonderful,
highly talented in
Freddie
every way.
Highmore, who is also starring in it, of course.
And he's also so wonderful.
And that is a lot of heart in that show.
I'll say, from beginning to end.
That season premiere was wonderful. So The Good Doctor, way to go to start a new season.
Absolutely.
And
now a show that I also was looking forward to with eager anticipation, more than paid off its promise in its first episode, and that's New Amsterdam, which is supposed to be Bellevue. And
a medical show.
A medical show about giving service to people who need medicine without worrying about money. Ryan...
What a revolutionary concept.
Eggles is very good. I didn't watch Blacklist, so I don't know him too well, but he's very warm, and I love the premise that they're going to throw away trying to make money, and it's going to be, well, of course.
At some point.
You know it's going to be a huge clash. We already saw in the previews that...
which is to be expected. I mean, it would be unrealistic
Hospitals
otherwise.
are really about making money. They're not about helping people.
You know, in an ideal world, it would be kind of a balance between the two.
Exactly.
But the money is definitely
I love
winning.
Janet Montgomery, who plays the head of emergency medicine. And
I was saying that I need more women, but we saw in the preview that I think 3 more women are coming. So
absolutely.
That's good.
It's good. I think the show has a very good balance, and it's about medicine, which I really love.
And I love that he is reinvigorating these doctors who are really, many doctors feel like they're just administrators, you know, who are in the hands of the insurance companies, this and that. And he's reinvigorating them to remember why they liked medicine.
Why they loved medicine, why they became doctors.
So it's very thrilling.
Good.
Yes, very thrilling. And I think that many of the characters are very likable at first.
Very likable,
first sight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
not that everybody has to be likable. You have to have villains, but I don't think our doctors should be villains. I think they should be fighting against a system.
And anyway, even villains I oftentimes like as characters.
And the cases were interesting, and it was very good.
Bull had an interesting opening episode.
Very good opening episode. It was quite. They played against type. They took on the big guy instead of the little guy,
and learned
their lesson from it. Yes.
It was very interesting.
Michael Weatherly is trimmed down to his old cute self, and
some changes have happened.
Yes, a few changes.
But it was a very solid start. I felt to a show that we didn't really originally
something
think
sad happens, and
so Bull definitely a promising season opener. FBI was surprisingly underwhelming.
Yes,
it was one of
here's
our
another
most,
show that I couldn't wait for.
Yeah.
Ho-hum.
I know. I think, by the way, Connie Nielsen, who was in this, that was the pilot, is being replaced by Celia Ward.
Now, I love Connie Nielsen, but being replaced by Celia Ward is okay by me.
Regardless of how I felt about Connie Nielsen before that, because I really didn't have anything pro or con, I felt that she was very kind of stiff in this character. So I think Celia Ward will be able to inject the show with a little bit more charisma.
Celia Ward,
I know.
We love her.
But I thought that the show itself was kind of pedestrian. It was just like a formulaic procedural.
There was nothing really that made it stand out from the crowd at all. Yeah. And not only did it not make it stand out from the crowd, it's not as good as some of the procedurals we already have.
Exactly. But this was the pilot again. Maybe there were some changes.
Yeah, and I love Missy Peregrine, so I'm always happy to see her, and it's got a pretty good cast.
It got a pretty good premise. Yeah. But we'll see where they take it. Now again,
the premise is just it's the FBI.
I know, but it's if they're going to deal with domestic terrorism and things like that. That is the kind of procedural that we actually don't have besides Homeland, but it's not a procedural.
Exactly.
And Dick Wolf usually knows what he's doing. This is the kind of show that I feel that we definitely, the second episode, the first after the pilot, could be very different from the pilot.
Yes, because pilots are different usually.
Yeah.
There's a lot of changes that are made between the pilot and the actual series.
So we're going to give FBI a question mark and circle back to it next week. And
Certainly circle back to it. We're going
No. Circle back on the podcast to let you know what we thought of the second episode.
We're going to give it plenty of chances.
Now, Chicago Fire. And personally, I think it was a big mistake to put all the Chicagos in one night.
Me too.
Especially,
too much Chicago, man. Unless you live in Chicago.
Especially when it's a Wednesday, and Wednesday is a big night, and especially when that means that you moved my SVU to Thursday, which throws off my entire existence. We'll get to it.
My wife likes things the way she likes them.
It's tiny dramatic. But first of all, Monica Raymond left, and apparently her exit was very kind of sudden, and so they wrapped up her storyline in a very, very clumsy way that I think betrayed the character.
Yes, and I don't see why she had to leave Matt. They barely hugged goodbye, and this was sort of
and
going
it was
to be
very unlike her. She's a person with a lot of heart and a high moral standard for herself. It was, but I mean, we read an interview with Derek Haas, who's the executive producer, and he was so sad to see her leave. And he says he knows he didn't do justice to the storyline because he kind of just he was upset, and he thought
he was in a kerfluffle about it.
And mostly what he wanted was to leave the door open for her to regret it and come back. So my problem with Chicago Fire,
and it's been my problem with Chicago Fire for a very long time.
Which is why it's our least favorite Chicago installment.
There's too much politics and too little fighting fires. There's always, everybody is against Firehouse 51. Poor Chief Bowden. Someone is always on his ass. Yeah. He's a wonderful chief. They're a great firehouse. Why the hell the brass doesn't just leave them alone? There's always strife. Someone's always trying to undercut them. And now we've got Chief Grissom, Gary Cole, who is just out to ruin them.
Yes, it's a shame.
I find it, first of all, it makes me anxious. Mm-hmm. I find it very anxiety-provoking, and it's not what I watch a show about firefighters for.
Exactly.
I can watch the news if I want to be anxious about politics.
Exactly. Even if it's Chicago, and we know that politics in Chicago is very corrupt, but this should be, really, they should try to focus more on rescues, on fighting, and stuff like that. So for now...
we'll watch it.
Oh, of course, but we're just not very happy about where it's going. Okay, here's another new show. It's called A Million Little Things, and it's about an interesting concept.
Very interesting concept. And obviously, This Is Us has opened the door to shows about feelings,
which is, by the way,
ensembles.
The way that they even previewed it right before it came on is like the new emotional show or something. So
exactly.
Appealing to our emotion.
What network is it on? ABC?
So it's it's ABC's response to NBC's This Is Us. It's a very important subject matter to talk about. It's about suicide,
which you find out very soon.
But it's actually not just about suicide. It's about people facing their mortality in many different ways.
Exactly, and about things on the surface not being what they are under the surface.
Exactly.
Oftentimes, how we don't really know the people that we think are our best friends, our family.
How sometimes you can be lying in the same bed with a person and not knowing really what goes on,
what pain they're suffering.
Yeah.
It's, attention must be paid. And it was a very, very good, strong opening. Yeah. I like all the characters. Mm-hmm. And
in the preview, we already saw there's some interesting twists that the stories are taking.
It seemed at first to be a little male heavy because it was about male friends, but it's about their families. It's about their families and their wives and their girlfriends and.
I'm interested to see where they'll take it because as a self-contained episode, it certainly worked, but we'll see now how it progresses. Mm-hmm. Also, by the way, there's a storyline about male breast cancer, which barely ever is talked about,
it,
right?
Almost never.
So that's great. It really was interesting, and even though it was kind of like the response to NBC's
This Is Us.
This Is Us. It's not as
it's not as maudlin.
It's much more kind of reserved and leaves more the subtlety. I find. Modern Family, which is always something that we like. I think the show is tired. And my other problem is even though, it's hard to keep, they had brilliant first years. I mean, they were some of the
There was
best
nobody that could
comedic
touch
writing.
them.
Yes, but besides the fact that it's hard to keep that up for
Yes,
as
and they're
many
all doing
years,
the same thing. Nobody's changed.
Not only
Even
are
though
they-
they've grown up, they've grown old.
not only are they doing the same things, they've now become exaggerated versions of themselves, which is hard for me personally. Again, as somebody who comedy doesn't come easily to me, to watch it, not to make it.
Well, you know what they say, dying is easy, comedy's hard.
So it's hard for me to kind of go along with that now. But of course, we'll keep
Give it a
keep
try.
watching.
And it's a good thing to watch when there's nothing else to watch in a half an hour.
These days, it's barely
know.
ever happens. Okay, speaking of This Is Us, by the way.
Very strong opening episode this
yes.
season. I liked it very much. I'm hoping Kevin's going to have some happiness this year. I think it's his turn.
I thought it was a very good opening episode. I think it also laid out a few storylines that will be interesting to follow. Like, for example, since it really is all about the father, even though he's the dead character, it's all about him. It was exploring some of his Vietnam experiences.
Where their origin story of
Right.
his and Mandy Moore's. And
I like Deja and that whole
yes.
story. My problem is really that they're all so self-indulgent and so over-dramatic.
Yeah, they're kind of the
really-
Shonda also.
They are the Shonda of NBC.
because they just talk in ways
And
that people
and it's all
don't
about-
talk
and
and
it's-
talk and talk and talk.
Not only that, but they're very self-involved.
Yes.
They're constantly, they air out all of their emotions. Nothing is ever, being held back.
Practically the strangers at a grocery store line.
So that's my problem with This Is Us. And it can get too saccharine. Usually around the middle of the season, I'm like, okay, enough with that.
Yeah, but anyway, we like it, and
Yeah.
we love the cast.
Yeah.
And we'll keep watching.
Chicago Med, always one of our favorite shows,
Yes,
and definitely our
absolutely.
favorite Chicago. It was a solid opener, though I'm very upset that they're ruining my Sarah, because she
Sarah.
used to be my favorite,
Yeah, she was
besides Dr. Charles,
A
of course.
delightful character, very interesting, very smart.
And putting her together with Charles, Dr.
Yeah,
Charles,
it
was a
brilliant.
perfect, yes.
They had great chemistry,
So I find it very
and
upsetting.
they love each other so much. It's such a shame.
I find it upsetting. But
It
otherwise...
looks like they're getting rid of her, too.
Yes, either she wanted to leave or they wanted her to leave. But we'll wait and see. Maybe it's not the end of it. But I love the idea of the hybrid OR in the ER.
Yes, very smart.
Yep. And we're whores for medical shows.
We really are. Just give us a good, not an open fracture. I really don't like them. And we
You
had a
don't like
lot
them.
of open fractures, I'll tell you.
You don't
in
like
these-
them as much as I
in
do.
these first few medical
Well, it's
shows.
always- it's a sexy
lot
thing.
of open fractures. Oh, they're so vile.
So Chicago Med, always happy. Now, SVU. Okay, so
2-hour opening.
very, very strong.
Powerful.
2 hour. I mean, to compare, by the way, Grey's Anatomy, we watched the first
Yes,
hour and we're
we
like,
said,
enough with this.
Let's take a break.
I can't take Shonda for 2 straight hours.
And it's gone like back to the beginning where
Yeah.
Shonda is just
Everybody talks the same.
Shonda speak.
Yeah,
and
except for
it's-
Meredith, thank goodness.
Yes, Meredith has grown out of it a little bit.
Yes.
It's just exhausting.
It
People
is.
just talk like people.
And again, talk about airing all your emotions out and not leaving anything to subtlety. And plus, now that my lesbians
and
are
they all
gone,
sound alike.
I know, because they all talk Shonda speech. The show exhausts me. And it had very little medicine in its first
Very little
episode, by the way. It
medicine.
was all about the relationships. But back to SVU, had a very, very good opening. I think that, by the way, the boy who played Sam, Bryce Romero, who was the central
Oh
character
my
in
God, this boy is a stunning actor.
He was so moving, so compelling.
I mean, it was one of the best performances of anybody
Yeah.
that I've seen this
he
this
was a
season
complete
so
unknown.
far.
Yeah.
Complete unknown.
I think that also the fact that it was, SVU, what they do, and they're proud to do it, is ripped from the headlines.
Wow.
Always very topical. And I was very upset when they had Olivia, facing her age.
Her age, but let's face it, who can run? I always think even the young kids, who can run like that when you have to chase a perp?
Which is fine, and I love that Ice-T
Said he feels the same way,
exactly.
exactly.
But I was upset because I thought, oh, don't you dare think about retiring my
Oh,
Olivia.
no, that'll be the end of the show.
Or retiring my show, because I'll tell you what, we really need this show. There's no other show like this. And the fact that it does these ripped from the headlines. I mean, even when we see the preview for next episode, and it's going to be all about...
of course, taking children from the arms of their immigrant parents.
But the thing is especially these days, when we don't see what we want to see on the news, it's important to have this some
Catharsis.
form of at least in fiction, at least feeling like somebody's doing it right. You know,
Exactly.
saying this is how it's supposed
At least
to be.
trying to do it right.
So they better not be retiring, the show or Olivia. We did have a little bit of a lesbian, possible recurring or maybe regular, Sandrine Holt, who is a new psych consult. And I find it hard to believe they would bring Sandrine Holt just for 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah, so hopefully she'll be...
Yeah, I think she's going to be the new psychologist. And I like her. She needs to eat a cheeseburger.
And she's a lesbian.
And she's well, her character is a lesbian.
Her character, yes, that's what I'm saying. They brought on a new lesbian character, absolutely.
Yes.
So I'm happy and I'm thrilled that hopefully the possibilities are to expand on that. So SVU, always a thumbs up,
and a really thumbs up on their 2-hour season opener.
Yep. Grey's Anatomy, we already talked to you about, so you know how I feel about that. And for dessert, we have
Murphy Brown, who did not disappoint.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
First of all, brilliant. The writing was crisp. The performances were great. She is just so...
I'm so in love with her. You know,
Candice
Bergen was never a great actress.
No.
But she has absolutely inherently the best timing.
Yes.
And she can deliver those punchlines to the point where I just scream. And she's so appealing.
And her character is just right
on. And
Hillary Clinton came over.
Hillary Clinton, who's always being mistaken for Hillary Clinton. I wonder why. Perhaps because she was played by Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, that was the best moment all week
screamed
of anything. And Hillary, talk about timing.
Oh my God,
was brilliant.
She's so...
Forget about politics. We don't deserve you. Be an actress.
To add to all of her list of greatest skills, talents, and accomplishments, the woman is a fantastic actress, and
she's
also
a very funny
comic.
Very funny comic. And
that was brilliant.
I love when she makes fun of herself,
and which she's very good about.
Very good about. It was quite charming, and it really, really made the show for me. Although I'm looking forward to further episodes.
Absolutely,
it's very old-fashioned.
But it's timely.
Yeah. It's it's a multi-camera show, and
but it's so good.
So good because it's talking about. I loved Murphy's Twitter war with Trump. It was very, very funny.
And I also want to mention that I believe this show is now making history with both the star and the showrunner being in their 70s, women in their 70s.
Yay for us.
So even more of a reason to root for Murphy Brown. Not that we needed one.
No, but now, welcome home, Murphy.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. There were other episodes that we haven't been able to get around with, but expect to hear about them next week, and more shows starting next week, more season premieres, and a few that we'll revisit. And also, there are so many other things to talk about in general.
Oh, my God.
So thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this rundown. We will be happy to hear how you felt about these shows.
And if there's something
you
think we've missed, because I'm sure we have.
I'm sure there's too much to watch anyway, so we haven't. So write to us as always, ladypartstv@gmail.com, as opposed to Hillary you could have had me.
Hillary, you could have had me. .com. I loved that.
And we will see you right back here next week.
Go watch television.
Bye.